Give us sort of the background. How did you get to where you are now, and what do you look forward to as governor?
That's a big question, man. What a just in life. Well, I grew up in Jersey, in Essex County. My folks, I think I'm fourth generation Jersey. My great grandparents are in Newark and Linden, and then my dad grew up in West Orange. My mom went to Asbury Park High School,
Wow.
and then I grew up, went to West Essex High School, and went to college, and eventually law school. Worked for President Bill Clinton as a speechwriter for him. I worked at the U.S. Commission on Civil Rights. I worked at Ford and later Microsoft. Did a lot on cloud at Microsoft, the corporate strategy, and then I worked at the FCC, Federal Communications Commission, and I oversaw public-private partnerships with the first Office of Public-Private Partnerships, and worked on really at that time the apps we called the apps economy, if you remember that. And then I got elected to Congress in 2016, first Democrat in 84 years to hold the seat I'm sitting in. And so that was, no one thought we'd win. So it was, I left Microsoft, went and did that, and we won. And of course, coming as a tech guy into Congress, there's not many who follow the space, and so it changes every week. So you might imagine now, as I'm in my fifth term, it's changed a lot since I was there. But I've done a lot, especially in tech when it comes to the crypto space, blockchain, and a lot on AI. There's an AI task force I'm part of. I did all the fintech stuff very early on, and now I introduced one of the first stablecoin bills into Congress. So I do, a lot in those spaces. Love tech. It's a very exciting space, and love that it's so dynamic. And really want New Jersey when now that I'm running for governor of the great state, really focused on what we could do on economic growth, and we could talk about that. I see tech as a very core component of that growth, but I think obviously we've got to do more to encourage it in our state. I worked with, in between one of these phases of my life, I worked with Mayor Bloomberg on his tech startup stuff. If you know that he did a lot in New York on Silicon Alley, and I did a lot with him, and we got all these. There weren't meetups, but they were like almost dynamic roundtables that he'd bring the whole tech world together, and I helped run these meetings with him to see what else they could do in New York. And I was wondered, as a Jersey guy, why aren't we doing more of this in Jersey? So I'll start there.
Now that's a great background. I mean, clearly the most tech experience of all the candidates, and that's a great thing. And so I'm really appreciative of that background. So let's just get into it. I mean, obviously, governors sometimes bring their perspective. They sometimes want to help big corporations. Some want to help small corporations, small startups, small business. Where do you see, just in that general question, because depending on the governor, as you look back, they've had different focus areas of how they want to spur the economy.
Well, so New Jersey is a phenomenal place to raise a family, as you know, Jim, right? It's great schools, very proud of our schools and our educators, beautiful communities. I think we win the values game every day, when we're talking about caring about things like our environment and choice and other issues like that. Um, uh, and we look out for each other. I think in Jersey, people who are from here get it. We get each other's backs. I launched my campaign in a diner, believe it or not, because I think everything good starts in a diner. I think ultimately I might get whacked in a diner, because I just go sit down with people at their table and just pull up a chair, and someone look at me like I'm nuts. I'm like, yeah, but what's on your mind? What are you focused on? In fact, Steve Van Zandt just endorsed me last week, and
Nice.
we talked for a while about how the fact that he's like, yeah, you could get whacked in a diner, but but
Oh my God.
what people talk to me about is just how expensive they love it, but it's just too damn expensive, Jersey, and it's killing people and forcing a lot of people out. We keep losing jobs and losing people. We're the number one out migration state in the country. We've lost 15% of our public companies in the last decade, and it all comes down to our costs, right? Property taxes, we have the highest in the country, some of the highest income taxes, and of course the highest corporate taxes in the country. So, and starting up in New Jersey a business, as you know, is very difficult. It's not like a one, two, three process. We make it difficult for them and have a lot of bureaucratic hurdles in the way. And when I'm governor, my number one thing is going to be to make the state more affordable for people. Right? I got to cut taxes. We got to cut costs. We have for people, we got the second highest childcare costs. We got to, go after a lot of these costs. We got to cut a lot of the red tape out of the way and stop running such a bureaucratic, layered state where the town, the county, the state and all these entities like I feel like they glom onto you every time you try to do something. So my whole orientation will be like, let's make this place friendlier to grow economic because if you can't do stuff for people if you're not growing, right? And you got states around us that are growing and we're not, right? Like Connecticut just cut their income taxes. Pennsylvania has lower taxes than we do and is grabbing a lot of our jobs. We've got the fastest fiber in the country under Newark, as you probably know, right? And we've got the back office of the New York Stock Exchange in my district in Mahwah, right? Like you've got where we have a lot of the ingredients here. We've got really smart people. Our tax policies need to be updated, especially for the startup world. But given our history of life sciences and financial services, we have a lot of built-in ingredients that should do well for things that spin off these companies. Right, we've got Princeton, really smart people, got Rutgers, really smart people, and yet we lag far behind. We don't commingle our universities with startups in the way that other states have. We don't think strategically about from just from like a venture side of the world, whatever space, from a startup side of the world. We've got some programs, but we're not really oriented toward that. And I feel like we have not built a state that really wants to kind of get the next generation entrepreneur. And we've got to change the way we orient ourselves that way if we want to grow and win in the next generation.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm glad you mentioned the lowering taxes. That was one of my questions. So you'll drive to push those taxes lower from corporates to everyone. I assume that's the case.
The
But
property taxes by 50,
CBT,
property
corporate,
taxes by 15%.
yeah, okay.
Yeah.
But let's talk about, you mentioned universities. Clearly on the federal level, we're seeing proposed cuts to research, to higher education, healthcare institutions. How do you see yourself ensuring that research and development continues, and innovation continues in our state with these sort of clouds of, potential cutbacks?
Yeah, listen, I think it's a great question. You've got you look at some of our core strengths, like I mentioned, life sciences, right, and which depends so much on R&D. And here's what I don't get, and maybe you can help me understand this. We historically, as a state, put aside what the Trump administration is doing right now, right? Historically, we have not oriented ourselves to being, we don't do well in terms of money we get back for R&D into New Jersey, right? Compared to other states. We're actually, for our colleges, are actually toward the bottom in terms of R&D. When it comes to sciences, when it comes to STEM, our universities actually often compete against each other instead of coordinating with each other. It's different than other states where you actually, and I'm going to change this when I'm governor, where you have somebody central in the government who says, okay, you apply for the nursing money, that federal grant. You go apply for the chips, and I worked on the chips bill a lot. It was one of the things I helped negotiate. You go after that money for R&D for semiconductors, right? Right. Like we actually instead what we do is we actually compete against each other, and there's no strategy. So in the end, we're toward the bottom of money we get back because no federal agency says no one wants to get in the middle of a fight between these schools. So, and then you add to that. So we were already behind where we should be going into this. Then the Trump administration's obviously coming in and trying to gut a lot of things that we're fighting back hard against. But, they're going after a lot of research dollars, a lot of R&D dollars. We've never extended properly the R&D tax credit, as you probably know, which is a key thing for investment in our state, especially in spaces like life sciences and tech and other spaces. And So we're going to have to fight back, as I'm doing in Congress now, against these cuts. But fundamentally, we got to rethink the way our state even does business within the state and with each other, and how we're going after what we go after.
Yeah, that's great. We have to collaborate better for sure. Now, what about the tariff situation, right? That's going to hurt everyone, including manufacturers in this state, including
Terrible.
drug manufacturers. It's going to be tough. So, how do you intend on fighting these um, tariffs, depending on how things, you know, fall out here
Well, these
going
higher
forward?
these higher tariffs are killing us, right? I mean, the you look at what they're doing, the price of it's not just hitting our businesses, it's hitting people, right? The price of everything. We just don't manufacture here the way we did years ago. And so we're a global economy and we import this stuff and in the meantime, if we should try to figure out how to make more of it here, which I agree, especially things like critical pharmaceutical ingredients. Like we should do more of it here.
Mhm.
But that said, we are now these tariffs are just charging people a lot more money for their goods. It's obviously affected the markets and people's retirement savings. There's so much uncertainty depending on the day. You never know what's going to happen. So what do I think? I think that the tariff policy is a disastrous economic policy, and will hurt us. And if we had enough of a manufacturing base, and so we've got some great high skilled manufacturing in New Jersey, but if he goes after pharmaceuticals, and he's gonna really that's our economy here.
Yeah, for sure. We spoke about the cutbacks at the, four-year institutions, research institutions. What about the community colleges? The new budget from Governor Murphy calls for 20 million, cutting from the operating aid to community colleges. I mean, how do you view that as an important aspect and sector within our education system?
Well, I think it's a mistake to gut our community colleges or to go after them. And that said, we have a lot of universities right now. Some are doing better. Some who aren't exactly doing well. And I think one of the first things I'm going to do is look at all the colleges and universities, especially ones that get state aid, and say, okay, should some of these be merging together? Do we need all of these? Should some specialize? So you have one school you go to for, is the best in STEM or in programming or, name the skill set. And and go to a different one for a different purpose to see if like how we're allocating our resources. Because I think getting back to the other point, we're not the most efficient. We compete way too much with each other.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Okay, fair enough. Let's talk about your relationship with the administration, right? Particularly on issues like immigration and high tech labor, right? We've been sort of a beacon, right, for so many great smart people over the past decades and century, right? And that's why our industry, our tech and life science is so strong. How can we continue to attract and retain them in light of sort of these policies, which may be hindering or hurting our economy, our innovation sectors?
You're talking about our cost in general, or
No, I'm talking about the ability to attract high tech immigrants,
yeah.
right? It's
Mhm.
just come and stay when we have an administration which is sort of,
Oh, got
you
it.
know,
Sorry, got it. You blanked out for some reason, your first part of your question, I lost you. Sorry.
no
Got it.
worries.
Got it. I missed the immigration part of it.
Yeah.
Um, so this administration's approach is insane when it comes to a lot of things. The fact that particularly one of his earliest pronouncements when he said, I'm going to go round up innocent, undocumented people in schools, in churches, in restaurants, right? Innocent people who are, and put aside like what their jobs are. Like, and I've said very clearly, it's totally unacceptable. And as governor, I'm going to fight it and stop it. Frankly, similar to our current governor is doing, making it clear through their directive that we're going to stop it. You are not only chilling the economy from people who work and everything from construction to restaurants, you name it, but what do you do where New Jersey's been a place where we've actually attracted a ton of talent, international talent, in some of the higher skilled jobs and obviously in pharma and tech, you name right, in a lot of our in financial services, we've been able to bring in a lot of talent, and that's also been chilled. So and by, across the country, not just in Jersey, but it's having a significant impact on our economy, and we should be fighting that, and I'm fighting it in Congress. The state's fighting these roundups, but I think that's the right approach.
Right. Okay. Fair enough. And lastly, let's focus on the EDA. The EDA under Governor Murphy has launched many new programs.
Like the AI hub and right.
AI hubs and just a bunch supporting everyone from startups to growth companies to keeping grad students here. How do you view that organization and those initiatives if you become governor? Do you want to keep them going? What do you want to?
Yeah, I
What's
mean, listen, anything we have to when your state is shrinking, you got to do anything you can to grow it. And we need jobs, good paying jobs, and we need to fight the high costs, right? As I said earlier, I think our competitive edge is our values. Where we're losing, where we're not competitive the way we should be right now, is the cost structure. And the cost structure is affecting getting jobs here, people wanting to open up new companies here, existing companies wanting to grow here. Johnson & Johnson told me recently, right, that they acquired a company with 450 jobs in New Jersey, and they're moving it to North Carolina, right? Which obviously pisses me off. I want those jobs here. And they said, well, the housing costs are too expensive, which they are. We don't have enough housing that's affordable for people, right? We're 200,000 plus units short of where we should be in housing. Rents are up 33% in the last 5 years in the state. So if you're a young person, like looking at it and saying, where should I live when I graduate? Jersey's amazing. We got our beaches, our lakes, our people, right? We got Springsteen, we got Bon Jovi, we got all every natural resource you could want. But it's expensive. And when you add these things, so if we don't take on the cost side of the equation, it's hard to attract new talent. And what do businesses want? Startups want, existing businesses want, they want the best talent. So we have great talent, but we're risking it by not, by not figuring out how to make life more affordable here. I think it's a big impact, and we got to fix our transit systems because people want to be able to get around, right? So you got to do some of these fundamental changes if you want to be able to attract startups as well as grow, as you said, the growth businesses. But the core, like going back to the question of are these things like the AI corridor and the tech hubs and like are those amazing? Yes, we should be doubling down on that. But we also have to like give incentives to bring more jobs here. I've got a 5,000 per job and per FTE incentive if you bring a job to Jersey, not from within Jersey. You got to actually net bring it in. You bring a job to Jersey, and I'm going to run around knocking on a lot of doors when I'm governor to get more jobs here to make the case that we've got such talented workforce here. You should bring your people here. But we also have to reorient things, right? We got to make it more affordable. We got to, with our universities, as I said earlier, and I think this is very important. I was part of an innovation center at Princeton years ago, and one of the things like that I remember us talking about was how do we, why don't we commingle more startups and encourage that right next to universities? Because a lot of places, like obviously in Silicon Valley and at 128 and right, and have in North Carolina and the Triangle, other people like they've figured this out. We've not exactly, broken that barrier.
Yeah, we're not we're on our, we're working hard toward it for sure. We made progress, but you're
We're
right.
not, we're getting there,
We're not there yet.
right? I mean, like, we've got CoreWeave, which is exciting, and we've got amazing, existing businesses that have been around a long time. But I want biotech jobs here. I don't want them going to Massachusetts, like, right? I want us to be, as we've been, the great leaders in these spaces, and the fintech space is very ripe for us. And I think AI, AI tied especially to life sciences and the financial sector has a huge opportunity for the state to grow because given we have a natural base there, but we got to deal with our energy problems.
For sure. For sure. That's another conversation. This has been
Another conversation, but it's tied closely to AI, right?
100%, 100%. But thank you for doing this, Josh, and thank you for your leadership. Any parting thoughts for the tech and innovation community before we go?
Yeah, I hope you can hear from my voice that I really want Jersey to be on the bleeding edge here. Like I want us to, and I also understand that there's going to be changes we're going to have to make, like to the QSBS, right? Like we're going to have to. We can't be one of just a few states that don't recognize it. That doesn't make any sense because startups don't want to be here if they can't get that, right? We're going to have to make certain tax policy adjustments. I got to get your property taxes down and income taxes down. We got to deal with, we got to make it more affordable for people when it comes to housing. And I get that. So I want people to know that I'm so hungry to make this happen, to go chase these jobs to our state, to grow our state, and I also understand that we're going to have to make changes in order to get there so that it's a place that's inviting to all. So that's what you're going to get from me as governor. And I'm a fighter. And whether I'm fighting Trump or fighting the taxes, I'm going to get this done.
Sounds good. Good luck, Josh. And
Thanks,
thank you
man.
for your leadership in the Congress. We really appreciate it.